Morning class, LA Chess Club, your teacher this morning, National Master Ruben Ondangan. And my lecture is about my affinity with the Sicilian defense, how it started. But first, I would like to show you the first few times that I played the Sicilian. It was beautiful, and it ended in 20 moves together. The first one was played in 2008, and this is against a national master, Craig Anderson. And the game went like this. So the title of this morning's lecture, Sicilian Defense Traps. Okay? So it starts E4, C5, white played knight F3. Okay? And I was black, I played knight to C6. Now, before we go further to the game, let's first understand the rudiments of the Sicilian. White plays E4, best by test. Black plays C5. Back in the days, they said that this is not the correct way to play for black. Everybody wants you to play E5, an equal share of the center. But you know, things changes as years progress, when people understand more about counterattack than just trying to equalize in the game. So here, I believe the title Sicilian Defense is a misnomer. I think it's supposed to be called Sicilian counterattack. Okay? So, white developed a piece, black as well developed a piece. So about equal right now. And here is where everything starts to flare up. And D4, we have an attack in the center that black has to do something about it. You will not allow D5 for white to gain time, correct? And so there is a situation here. What should you do?
Capture.
Capture. Why?
Well, because if you don't do anything, white is either going to capture or push, and there's nothing else to be done.
Good answer. The best here is in the underlying principle of the side pawn and the center pawn, and the idea of the opening in the Sicilian is for black to have the C file for his own. White, on the other hand, is giving him a center pawn in exchange for a side pawn, but at the cost of activity. So we have these pros and cons, and imbalances is started right here in the early stage. So C takes D4. Now, the natural move here is knight takes, correct? But here in this game, white introduces the Smith-Morra Gambit. All right, C3. I believe Mitch played this against me one time, a while back, right? I don't want to reveal the result of that game. But
Could you tell them what happened 2 weeks ago?
okay. C3. So if you're black here, what should you do? There is a rule of thumb when your opponent offers a gambit pawn. The general rule is take it. All right, just take it. If you don't see any immediate threat as a result of you capturing both the pawn, just take it and tell him, show me, I'm from Missouri. Right? So D takes C3 and knight takes C3. Okay, class, what did white achieve by giving up a pawn? Remember, in gambits, there is a reason why they give up pawn early in the game. Very popular in the 19th century. Right? Ahead in time or development. Again, chess is a battle of time, force, and space. Remember that, okay? Time is development. Force is the number of men that is out. Space is the advantage you have in the terrain. Any question? Clear? All right, let's proceed. Knight takes C3. Black follows suit with knight F6. What we have here is, I consider the Sicilian 4 knights. 1, 2, 3, 4 knights all out. And white just gambited a pawn. So it seems like he never really achieved much with regards to time or development. Right? So after knight F6, he continued with bishop C4. Okay, now he's ahead 3 against 2. And it seems that there's no piece that we can bring out at the moment. So that is where his advantage lies. And this bishop here looks threatening immediately on our F7 pawn. And so here, a natural response will be d6 or
E6.
e6. Very good. You know this line? Very good. e6.
E6, E5.
Any question? Okay. e6, you start blunting that bishop immediately out of its sphere of influence. It could do something bad on your f7. So it's always good. That's why in French type position, immediately out of the opening, e4, e6, you started creating a wall to protect the f7, which is closest to the king's spot on e8. All right? So, e6. And not only it blunts the bishop on c4, it creates an opening for your
Dark square bishop.
dark square bishop, which can create problems in b4, c5, or even a positionally minded bishop e7. Okay? So, after bishop c4, National Master Craig Anderson proceed with castle. You cannot fault white's play here. It's classical approach. You just simply develop the pieces rapidly, control the center, and castle early. 3 principles of opening play. Everybody remember that. Control center, develop your pieces rapidly, castle early. 3 principles of opening play. Okay, after castle, what should we play here? There's a few candidate moves. Did I mention the word candidate moves? Very important in your chess. Before you make a move, you have to always gather first the choices. Just like picking a boyfriend. First, line them up. Okay, I'm just joking. I just want. So, no? What are your candidate moves here?
Bishop c5.
Bishop c5 1. Anybody else?
E7.
Bishop e7 2.
Bishop E4.
Bishop b4 3, creating a pin.
There is no pin.
There is no pin anymore. So 3, and what else?
Or bishop e.
The other one is 5 a6. Some players play h6, very timid or maybe afraid in the line of being
But knight
peer.
E5.
95, I probably will listen to your class. When you play knight e5,
A5.
knight a5, okay. The one thing that you violate, the principle of do not move the same piece twice in the opening until everybody else is out, correct? So that's one. Now, in every rule, there is always an exception, correct? But this is not one of them, because knight a5, actually, you will just, after bishop d3, and the knight will find itself stranded on a5 for a while. It requires one more tempo to bring it back to the to the center of the battle. Okay, so that's one. It violates a principle. What else can we play here in this position?
D6.
The d6 is another one that prevents e5. Very good. So these are all classical approach, and this type of move d6, we are within the idea of Nimzovich, Aaron Nimzovich, prevent, right, blockade, or stop your opponent from playing active moves. Okay, go ahead, Perry.
Do you want to do that and close your bishop off?
Well, the idea is closely connected with bishop e7 positional, and at the same time creating an opening for the bishop. However, that is not the move I played. Everybody will miss my move.
A6.
A6 is again in the border of fear and just I don't know, you're being afraid or passive, fear and passivity.
Queen.
D5. Now remember here, and this type of moves.
Knight takes E4 and then D5.
Come on, you're going too far. First, it was in the border of being.
Knight takes knight. and then
You're becoming more insane by the moment. So, so here, let's understand the position. First, d5. You cannot play to open up the position if your king is not safe. Remember that, a general rule of thumb. Put that at the back of your head. I cannot open up the position if my king is find itself in the crossfire with open lines of the bishop and the rooks. No, you will die immediately here. So we have to make sure that our king is safe first. However, there is another move here that borders in activity, attack, and counterplay. The one that everybody missed. Queen C7. Why is the good question. Anybody? Now, if you study the book by Lev Pulugayevsky, The Sicilian Labyrinth, Volume 1 and Volume 2, you will see here this man's love for the Sicilian defense. And a lot in his game, you will see this queen move on C7, and apparently it's not doing anything in there, correct? It seems like it's a waste of move. But what is the underlying principle or idea?
Well, you own the C file because it's an open file.
You open the C file, there is a possibility of deadly attack on the bishop, which is undefended. The unveiling of the knight. Everybody follow that? Not to mention, the queen directed itself to
H2.
at the moment is where the white king is in residence on this side of the board. Okay, Queen C7. The depth, of course, has to be understood very well here because you are inviting or provoking white to play, for example, knight B5. Which, how should you respond if you're black?
Queen B, 6.
B. After Queen B6, you will be a barrage of attacks, tempos, and who knows what else.
Queen B8.
Very good. Why Queen B8?
We still have
You maintain that eye on the H2 square. Okay, that is the provocation. And now, after that provocative move, we find that this pawn will be undefended. Okay, so you provoke your opponent. You provoke the players. So these are what we call provocative move. It will make your opponent think, guarantee. Let them spend a few moments, a few minutes in their precious time to figure out what is this guy up to. Okay, Queen C7. It seems like harmless. But you see, you cannot really depend on the calm of a C. There you go, right? There's always something lurking there. Okay, so after Queen C7, white played Queen E2. It's still within the parameters of proper placement of white's forces in their most optimum squares. Knight classically placed on C3 and F3. Queen on E2 protecting the C7. Remember I mentioned that the unveiling of the knight will suddenly create an attack on the undefended bishop. Now after Queen E2, white actually protected this bishop and created a possibility of connecting the rooks with one move of the bishop somewhere. Okay? Everybody following him? I'm talking too fast. Okay, very good. So, Queen E2. Now here, now by the way, this one is played in Palmdale in February 20 of 2008, the tournament. So here, after Queen E2, black play a violation of your principle, of the principle I mentioned.
Same piece twice.
We move the same piece twice.
Knight E5.
Knight E5, that's one. Any other candidate moves?
Knight B4.
Knight?
B4.
Knight B4, what is the threat?
Uh,
Remember, the bishop is now protected. Okay? So, Knight B4 doesn't have any idea.
Knight A5.
Instead, black played this paradoxical Knight G4. Now, you will see now the idea of
Ooh, you're threatening mate at H2.
No.
there's a knight.
Yeah, but all you have to do is get rid of the knight and it's mate.
Correct. That's easier said than done.
But you are threatening
least
Knight
you're there.
B4. You are threatening Knight B4.
And here is where a lot of players will fall after this move that it seems like it doesn't contain any idea. Watch out for those uncanny moves or paradoxical moves that it seems like senseless. And so here, a national master, by the way, fall for this opening trap.
Let me guess.
He
He played H3.
played H3, and now
Knight D4.
Knight
Knight D4.
D4 is curtains. It's over. Anyone?
3 lines.
Yeah.
It's over. In order for him to save the queen, he has to move it anywhere. If Queen E1, we have knight takes, and then checkmate here, Queen C7. Okay? Got that?
Got it.
If you capture the knight, you lose the queen with check. And so now you see the tactics that abound with that little quiet, deceiving, deceitful move, queen c7 right
And the
there.
master missed it.
And a master, national
I
master.
would revoke his national master.
Well, he went down. Actually almost give up chess after this game. So, after losing in 9 moves, one of the shortest game I've won against a master. There's a few that I've shown here that are very brief, short but sweet. Right? So here's another one. 3 years later, the same idea occurred against a very strong expert, Arthur Thomas Williams, known in the chess here around California as a fierce competitor. Arthur Thomas Williams is about almost 2100. That's why he's a candidate master for several years now. This next game was played on August 21 of 2011, 3 years after the Anderson game. So, how it went. I was black again. He played e4. I played c5. Knight f3. And this time I did not play knight c6 compared to the Anderson game. This time I played the immediate e6. I've learned something in the Sicilian that I have to protect my king so early in the game. Now, this is a non-standard developing move. Remember? You allowed white an advantage in time so early on. But because of the close nature of the position, it's not yet open, you are given the privilege to play this, what we call prophylactic move. Prophylaxis, anybody can define it? It's a move that prevents.
You're anticipating like a move that anticipates something.
Wow, you like a Shakespeare when you say that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very good, well said, right? You sound like, but it actually prevents your opponent from any activity that he so desire in the position. This just prevents your opponent's attack, counter, and any active move. Okay, e6 prevents a lot of things. A bishop, a knight arriving there, bishop placing here, and all kind of things. Not to mention you are also giving yourself an option of a d5, which in most Sicilian is an equalizing move. Remember that. In the Sicilian, if you can play d5, that means the tide is turning in your favor. Okay? d5, remember that move. Here, after e6, he played d4. C takes d4, knight takes d4. Okay, he has the center. And black played here. Anybody can guess black's next move?
Bishop c5.
Bishop c5. Wow, that's a modern treatment of the game. It was recently called SALE, S-A-L-E variation. Some guy from Romania played bishop c5 here.
I like knight c6.
Knight c6 Taimanov system. You played that against me, right?
Knight f6.
That's the game 2 weeks ago.
Maybe the accelerated dragon, g6.
Okay, if knight f6 class and maybe you are contemplating here e5, forget it. You might give up chess after queen check. Okay, you just simply lost a center pawn. Perfect job, Brian. No, I'm just joking with you. I'm just playing with you. I have to mention your name. So, knight f6, no. Okay, you have options. Bishop c5, he said. Knight c6, Mitch said. Anything else?
d6.
d6, which is called the Scheveningen, right? Scheveningen, which is a town or a city in, where is that city? Dutch? Yeah. Scheveningen, yeah. Scheveningen. d6. Okay, another one.
Bishop b4 check.
Bishop b4 check. This is a no-no because you allow your opponent, you tempo your opponent by c3. Okay, you c3 and even knight bd2 just develop.
Bishop e7.
Bishop e7. Okay.
G6, the accelerated drag.
A6. Here we go. Okay, here everybody will frown at this move. We have E6. We have A6. What are the underlying principle in this type of slow moves which are in the border of prophylactic thinking? Prophylaxis is an idea in chess which is a concept by Aaron Nimzovich, will simply prevent our opponent's counter active moves in the position. For example, it assists on b5. It prevents bishop c4 because you gain a tempo by b5. If knight c3, b5 again, threatening b4, and then bishop b7. So we have on those two little moves, we have a lot of immediate play for black, a continuation. It's very important in a chess game that you choose moves that will give you continuation or play. Sometimes we are settled on one move or two moves, and then you ask yourself, now what? Not good, right? It is always a good idea to have continuity in the game. So A6. Any questions so far? White erected an opportunity here to erect the pawn on c4. We call it the Maroczy bind. In this line, I would call this the Maroczy has been unbounded. Right? So c4 prevents a lot of things. b5 prevents d5 and allows the knight to be developed behind its pawn. Very good, important. There's only a problem here. What is the problem of this c4 move?
Check at A5.
The bishop become imprisoned within its own walls. Okay, so this is sometimes the problem in the Maroczy bind formation. This bishop will suffer for a while. So here, after c4, knight f6. Yay, knight f6. And again, if you're contemplating e5 here, forget it. Why? Queen a5 check again. Right? So this time knight to c3, but then we have bishop b4 and all kind of problems show up in white's position. So instead of allowing the pin, white played very good bishop d3, not getting involved in that pinned.
Is it gonna lose a piece?
Which one?
The d4 knight.
The d4 knight. How we will lose a piece?
I mean, it's undefended now. So
It's undependent, so that's a good idea of maybe attack it with bishop c5, queen b6 later on because it's undependent. However, there is no direct way to take advantage of this undependent knight. But you notice here the bishop is not really well placed here. Your officer job is supposed to be used for attack or leading the army. Here in this case, it became a depender of poor soldiers. So it's not good. It seems like you have demoted them to a job of a big pawn, right? So here, after bishop d3,
his bishop rank has been permanently stripped away from him.
which one?
The rank of bishop has
Yes.
been permanently stripped away.
Strip away and demoted to the rank of big pawn. Very good. Okay.
Slightly above pawn.
Slightly above pawn. It's still a pawn in in its job, in duty. Only it looks like a bishop. Okay. So here, after what did black played in this position? Guess black's move.
Bishop b4 check.
Bishop b4 check 1. Anybody else? Candidate moves.
Bishop c5.
Bishop c5 attacks the bishop, and then after knight b3, your bishop has to move again. So bishop c5, knight b3, and after bishop moves and gain a tempo, right? So
Go back to a7.
go to a7. Yeah, it's another line. Anything else?
Bishop e7.
Bishop e7, the positional approach. Knight c6, the Taimanov idea. Mark Taimanov, a concert pianist from Russia, former world championship challenger, beaten by Fischer 6-0 in the 1970 candidates. They should not follow his footsteps. No, I'm just joking. Please don't don't quote me on that. So, what else do we have here? After bishop d3. d6 again. Scheveningen, you like that small Dutch town, huh?
You want E5?
D5?
d5. Wow, that was a move by Kasparov against Karpov in the World Championship game in 1985. It's called the Kasparov Gambit, by the way. Anything else? So those are our candidate moves. Again, we missed one move.
Oh, the Queen C7.
Ruben's patented move, right? Yeah, there you go. So, Queen C7. We call it Ruben's patented move. There you go. I have to make it. Yeah, Ruben attack. There you go. Queen C7. Seems like, again, a harmless move. It doesn't make sense. And it violates principle of do not move your queen so early in the game.
But it can't be attacked.
It can't be attacked because of this a6, right? Because of this e6. So, after queen c7, he castled. He castled into it.
Yes,
He castled into it, right? And so all kind of start reminiscing about the good old days 3 years ago of how I beat Craig Anderson here. So I said, here, let me devise a plan on how to create an attack. First, I have to bring a knight out to attack this knight. So I played the Taimanov move, knight c6.
What about if he had moved to E2 with the bishop instead? Then he would have protected the G4 square.
Well, the idea of bishop earlier here is to protect this pawn. That's what's the idea of it. So now I played knight c6. The correct move here, class, for white is simply capture. Capture and making sure that none of other black forces will come in the help or the attack of the enemy king. However, here he played knight f3.
Whenever Ruben mentions the correct move, more than likely his opponent didn't play it.
Oh, okay, that's right. They don't want to play it. The correct approach is knight takes c6, exchange of knights. But the opponent doesn't want. Arthur Thomas Williams, after knight f3, okay, I need more men out. This can come out anywhere, anytime. We need this bishop to be out. So I played b6 here. See here? The principle is to get a diagonal for the bishop, attack this pawn on e4. Right, so far so good. So it's still a close position. After b6, knight c3, and then bishop b7. Okay, any question? None? Remember, we're not castled yet. After bishop b7, he played bishop g5. White's approach is again direct and very classical. Develop the pieces in their most optimum square. Knight on f3, c3, bishop out, bishop develop. Unfortunately, this is the problematic bishop.
That is not the optimum square for the bishop.
This is not the optimum square for the bishop, correct? The correct square for this bishop should be here. Unfortunately, he played it earlier to defend e4. So here, the only problem in white's position is this bishop. Okay, he brought out another piece. He is ahead in development. 2-4, castling is considered development 5 against 1, 2, 3, 4, and an uncastled king. Okay, in this type of situation, it seems like white has the advantage in time or development, correct? But not everything is what they seem in chess. So this is the problem sometimes. We start counting, and we think that mathematically we are ahead. But no, there are a lot of nuances and intricacy in the position that rules everything out, including your advantage in material, space, and even your advantage in time. All right? So after bishop g5,
H6.
the second of Ruben's patented move,
Knight g4.
knight g4.
This characterizes the Ruben attack.
There you go. I hope everybody will remember that. Ruben attack, he said. He labeled it, not me. It has to be known now in history. It's the Ruben's attack. Okay. Rename it? It never showed up yet. So, knight g4.
H3.
Bishop h4. His idea is to play bishop g3 and then nullify that queen on c7, and black will lose all the desired plan of embarking an attack on h2. Bishop.
Now 94.
So now my idea is this is my plan. If this bishop arrives here, I want to plant this knight on e5. Okay? So but I cannot do it immediately because this square will be covered twice, and there will be a very dangerous spin if this is what's happened. Knight e5, and we have a dangerous spin that will take place here. For example, capture, and for example, queen. It is very difficult to defend. After d6, white will be very happy to just capture and create a double pawn for.
Are you quite sure? Because then we'll be left with a good bishop versus bad bishop.
We will black will have a bishop pair advantage, right? But with a weakness.
Bishop
versus bad
f6.
bishop.
No.
So here, for example, let's go back. This is my desired plan. So I need, but because it's black's turn, we have an option to consolidate or strengthen the square. And so my next move, without blocking my bishop, is
Bishop d6.
Bi-
f6.
Bishop
f6. Very good. f6. The reason is you strengthen the overprotect this square. So in case after bishop g3 or even h3, h3 here is playable. Now we have knight e5. Okay, so we will at least gain a knight there in the center even after the exchange. So that was the idea of f6. After f6, my opponent Arthur Thomas William probably get confused and played this seems very natural move, queen e2, and now the third of Ruben's patented move here in this
Knight d4.
knight d4.
Queen e2 is called the Ruben's opponent's board.
So after here, white doesn't have a choice but to resign.
Let's call this Ruben's siege.
The siege. So you see the same idea. The importance of developing an opening repertoire based on your understanding of the game. You don't change your opening again and again, right? You just keep the same opening understanding. You don't have to be a jack of all trade and master of none. You have to be familiar with the opening that you play and play it even against a beginner or against a master. You hear that? You don't change your system. Play what you know. Okay? Do not dabble on the things that you never been there, never understand, never read about it.
Is that like a sample flyer?
Yeah? No. Just play what you know. So these are two games, 3 years apart with the same idea. Different variation. But you see the ideas remain. This morning is now the main lesson. And we have what? 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. I would like to show a game of Grandmaster Wen Yang against Grandmaster Artemiev during the Moscow tournament in 2016. Very new. And I would like to show this game because I studied it very well in connection with the Close Sicilian lecture I made 2 weeks ago, correct? The lesson on Close Sicilian, if you remember that, my game against, who was that? The young, no, the other, the young boy, Daniel Museri. Okay, the idea, the reason I studied this game because it's similar to one of my games I played. And so here I was able to get some fresh idea by the Chinese Grandmaster. Now, Wen Yang is a fast-rising Chinese star. Here he was white and he played a very strong opponent, Grandmaster Artemiev of Russia. Okay, the game went e4, c5, knight c3 was played. For further explanation of this knight c3, I want you to check my YouTube page. You will see there a lot of explanation of this. The knight on the left. That's what I call it, okay? A knight on the left, a knight on c3 brought out so early. Well, in comparison to the knight f3, we see here knight f3 is more active and more attack oriented. Knight c3 is more positional and more he wants to play along quiet lines, okay? And hence the title Close Sicilian against Open Sicilian, okay? So here, a close Sicilian, knight c3.
Does Willis hate this line or what?
Willis Kim, if you want really to neutralize his play knight c3 against him. He plays a Sicilian non-stop. If you play knight c3 against him, he will look at you and say, I'm sick and tired of this close Sicilian game. So, okay. So,
Play D4 first move.
no, that will go right into what he wants you to play, d4.
What, D4?
Yeah.
Instead of D4?
If you want to play d4's first move, okay, then his d5 slab, he's very happy with it. Playing something that your opponent will not be happy about. That's just the nature of the game. You don't play according to your opponent's comfort zone. Take them out of their comfort zone. Make them think. Chess is about giving your opponents problem. If you cannot give them problem, you will be receiving them soon. All right? So, it might as well that you give the problem immediately. Strike in the board while the iron is hot. A6. Okay. Very mysterious move. It seems like my move, right? A6. Knight c3, A6.
Part of the Ruben.
He played g3. Okay. There was an explanation here on 2 weeks ago's lecture. Why? Play this pawn move g3 to develop the bishop here when white already have an open diagonal where he can simply develop this bishop anywhere. E2, d3, b4, c4.
Well, G3 stops the Ruben attack permanently.
Here is the idea of this opening.
And also,
The first move e4 is about what? Control the center, especially d5 square. The second move knight c3 was connected to the first move of e4. Hence, we see now the connection of e4 to d5, knight c3 to d5. Everybody following? The idea of g3, therefore, is in connection with continuous and overprotection of the square, now with the help of bishop on g2. That was the idea of creating a fianchetto on g3. Okay, here, if a6, the problem with bishop c4 is, of course, b5, and after bishop b3, goodbye, prelate. The pope is gone. Okay? It's trapped. So, it's not good. If bishop d3, it looks very suspicious.
yeah.
You don't block your own man.
He looks unhappy.
He looks unhappy there. You need to find greener pasture for him later on, so it's a waste of time. Bishop e2 is too tame for my liking because it simply develops for, here, remember, development for development's sake is not at all good in chess. You have to develop with a plan. All right? Even your early moves should be connected to the main idea of the game. So, now we can understand why g3 is logical. Okay? Now, after g3, Artemiev played a b5. Here is another guy who is following in the footsteps of Ruben, playing all pawn moves in the opening. Should be punished immediately, correct? All right, no development, just pawn moves. Something is already suspicious here. Of course, after bishop g2, class, you see the bishop is already ruling the high seas, this diagonal. Okay? So after bishop g2, black played bishop b7, challenging the bishop on g2. Okay, here. But I believe white has a slight advantage because of two development against one. Okay, but it's a close position, so very minute advantage. Go ahead.
Black has the advantage in pawn moves.
He has the advantage of pawn moves? I don't see advantage in pawn moves.
3 to 1.
3 to 2 in pawn moves, huh? That's a new concept, by the way. So here, after bishop b7, d3, overprotecting e4. Played e6. Okay, can we guess white's next move here, class? Guess a move time.
Bishop e3.
Bishop e3, playable. Anything else?
Knight f3.
Knight f3, very popular move in this position.
Knight
f4.
Knight ge2, who said that? That's another very number 2 in the database. Number 1 is knight f3, number 2 is knight ge2.
f4.
In order for you to surprise your opponent, you have to play a move that is not even in the database. or even if it's there, it should be ranking in the very low part, okay? If you're using the database, right? If you're using these computer programs. Here, the good thing about using, your opponent will be prepared against knight f3, knight ge2. That's given. You know, they studied this very well, and most of the time, when you buy a book, most of the time you read only the first few chapters. Nobody ever ventured to the last part. Nobody ever finished a book. Am I right? And so here, in one of my lecture, I mentioned about using lines that can be found at the very last chapter of a chess book. We call them odds and ends. Okay? Because your opponent most likely were not able to get as far as that chapter. So here is the paradoxical knight h3. Amazing. I know.
That wouldn't be at the bottom of the database, though.
It is. It's probably in the bottom of that line, knight f3, knight ge2, bishop e3, f4. Those are the top 4 moves in the position.
And then knight h3 would be number
Knight h3 will be number 5, most likely. So here you see now problem. If my opponent plays something like this, it will make me think. If you play this against your opponent will guarantee will spend time thinking. And that is the object of the game, to give your opponent problem, right? For them to answer, right? Find the solution on that at the moment. So you have to understand, okay, what is white aiming for here? The knight on the edge. They said that the knight on the rim is dim.
Preventing
And
the queen from coming out.
it doesn't block the
No,
queen.
I mean the black queen. The black queen.
Well, it won't go out anyway because of the bishop. It doesn't block the pawn to play f4. It doesn't block the queen, because if you develop this on knight f3 or knight e2, it blocks the queen, correct?
You can also castle.
And you can also castle. So, and it's a development move, but it become problematic for black. What is this? What kind of garbage is this? This is what your opponent will. What kind of garbage move is this knight h3? But it's actually played by a super strong grandmaster from China. Knight h3. And here, Artemiev, after a few moves, played d6. Your move. He starts wondering what on earth is happening here. Okay.
Rules when it comes to
After d6, white simply castle. Right? Knight f6. Look what he played. The idea of knight h3 becoming clear. White played after castling. Anybody?
bishop g5.
Bishop g4. f4 means f pawn means forward. See the idea of knight h3? It doesn't block f4, and the queen will still have access. All right, and now it is supported by a rook. There you will create an open file for your rook by means of e6, right? So f4 class is very strong. After f4, knight to c6.
Can we play e5 here?
Not yet. We would love to, but we want to make sure that everybody is invited to the party before we start opening up the champagne. So bishop e3. There you go, bishop e3. After bishop e3, just one more move and the rooks will be connected. So we are ahead in development time where king are safe. We are creating something in the center. Very strong broad center here, e4 and f4. One of them ready to go forward, either e5 or f5. Okay?
Artemiev didn't resign yet? Artemiev didn't resign yet?
Not yet. He said you don't get anything from resigning. Okay, so he continued to fight on. So after bishop to e7, here, this seemingly natural move was the beginning of the end for black.
The beginning of the end.
Yes, you like that, no? This very natural developing move. Be careful about the natural move. I believe here, because you mentioned the threat e5 earlier, that is very strong, and in connection with the idea of this bishop which is independent. So the correct move here is the Ruben's move, Queen C7. Whether you like it or not. This is the correct move in the position. To connect, protect B7 and to introduce a possibility of what? Look, queenside castling if needed. Okay? You're giving your opponent some problem on what side of the board that you're planning to castle. Queen G7, the Ruben's move. No, it's not attack because these are all well guarded here. There's no siege. There's Mossad in there. There's the presidential force. You know, there's all bodyguards and assassins. You can't attack that thing. It's impossible. Okay, so but the move Queen C7 is not only designed for attack. It's also designed for defense. Okay, so instead he played Bishop E7, and here is where the problem begins because now we have your move. Who said E5 earlier? You? Yeah. Here it is.
Yeah.
Destroy the center with an attack on D6 and knight F6. So this is what happened. After DE5, you see now the problem? The knight cannot capture because the bishop will be en prie. You see that? The discovered attack on that bishop prevented black from capturing this pawn. And so, now if he played, for example, knight D5, is this playable?
It's playable, but I don't think it's...
What's going to happen if knight D5? Knight takes? And then pawn takes, what's going to happen?
Queen F3.
Queen F3 is playable, but the most direct is the devastating E6. Right? You found the correct move, right? And after F6,
Queen H5 check?
Queen H5 is met by G6.
Okay.
You have to see a very beautiful move here, class.
Knight G5.
Knight G5 is playable, but what is that knight doing there?
Rook takes F6.
Rook takes F6. Have you lost your mind? So, here is the most is the move that probably nobody can guess in this position. Queen G4 is playable. Anything else?
Rook F5.
Because of the lack of time, this is the move.
Bishop takes.
Bishop A6.
Because after pawn, now the Queen H5 check, and then we have a very beautiful checkmate. All right, but of course,
I think he had a smarter move.
he doesn't have to capture the bishop. What if we play G6? Now what?
Now do we play knight F4?
Well, you have bishop G7 just to disrupt the rook so that he cannot castle. You can play.
Can we do rook takes F6
In
now?
other words, you're just ahead.
We're winning completely. Okay.
Knight F4.
Knight F4. There's so many good moves here. Knight F4 is beautiful as well. All right.
We do rook
Knight
takes
G5.
So you see that mysterious bishop H6 move? Yeah, I learned something today, huh? So we cannot capture. We cannot play Knight D5 class. Instead, okay. Let's.
I think he is way smarter than that.
Well, of course he is. He's a former Russian and European, I believe, European champion as well, and one of the strongest top 10 in US or Russia. So knight D7. Now we have a double attack on the pawn. Seems like all is well for black. Is it?
No.
This seems like under siege, under attack, and it cannot be defended. But it is white to move. After knight D7, we have
Bishop takes E6.
bishop takes E6.
C6.
C6. Why surrender this beautiful bishop here?
How about rook F?
Queen F3.
Queen F3. You just castle. Yeah.
Queen G4.
Queen G4. Very good. Attack this pawn because now if he castles, what's going to happen?
Bishop H6.
Bishop H6, and it's over. Well, not really over, but you lose the material. Correct. Major material. So Queen G4 was played, And after queen g4, here is where the pawn begins. g6. He played g6. It seems very natural. But now comes the coup de grace.
Bishop h6.
Bishop h6 is playable under any circumstances, actually. It's probably the best first choice. But nobody here who has on the right frame of mind will play the next move.
Bishop d5. Rook takes f7.
Rook takes f7. This kid already answered most of the. Your first honor today, okay? Class valedictorian. Rook takes f7. After king takes, what's the next move? You need to have an idea here of what's going.
e6.
Queen takes e6 and resign.
Okay, rook f1.
Rook f1 check. Very good. And after rook f1, where does the king go? If we try to go back here, then there's a check and there will be mate on f7, okay? So it cannot go here as well because of the same idea, queen takes and then rook f7. So he has to go back e8.
Now queen takes e6.
Now queen takes e6. Now let's take stock. What did white get after that rook sacrifice? Two pawns and an uncastled king.
And a ton of activity.
And a lot of possibility for white. Enough compensation for the attack.
I mean, you could
But
take
you see, if you start counting material, you will be discouraged for white. And see here, in chess, material is not everything, just like in life. Right? For what shall it gain a man if he gains the whole
So
world?
does-
No, I'm
is
just
there an escape for the king
Right?
on black side? An escape
Huh?
for the king
What about?
on black's king needs an escape.
Unfortunately, he is protected by his own man. However, the inability to the loss of castling privileges make this king stuck in this side block, and the pin is very problematic. How to get out of the pin?
Wait,
So
could you
d5
take
c7.
But
C6?
queen f7.
It's black to move. Okay, so it's black to move. He cannot capture the pawn because can he?
No.
Rook f8.
He captured the pawn. And let's see why he should not capture the pawn because of this next move.
Bishop g5.
Bishop c6.
No.
Bishop takes c6, knight takes c6, and
But he's just
remember,
f7 square, right?
huh?
Well, f7 doesn't
Then
matter
it
anymore
will be
because he
escape.
gets away.
You will be able to escape. Now, watch here, class. When you are attacking your opponent, you make sure that you don't exchange too many forces. You needed those men for attack. There's no use for a dead soldier. Okay. So knight d5 is playable. Bishop c5 is also good. There's so many. This is the problem sometimes in a position that gives you a lot of possibility. There is where a player lose their mind. Okay. The correct move here is. This is the threat of black, by the way, to exchange.
So knight d5.
Right.
Wasn't knight d5?
Knight d5 is playable. That's one. But the much more. That's good enough, by the way. But knight. The next move is much better. Knight e4. Now, if queen, if over here, by the way, you have queen d6, and you have no choice but to exchange,
Well, you have knight f6.
right? Knight f6 and then king d8,
And then resigns.
and then there's no more further continuation for white. So you have to be careful. You have to prevent the arrival of the queen here and here. It can be achieved in one move. Knight e4 prevents d6 directly. It indirectly prevents queen d7 because anyone?
Knight f6.
Check, and the queen is gone. All right, so knight e4 is the only move in the position. You have to be precise even to the very last drop, okay, of blood. Okay, knight. After knight e4, he played queen to c7. The Ruben's move is way too late. Okay, queen c7, way too late. Now comes, we want a horse in there, so Knight F4.
Oh, knight f4.
Look at the arrival of all this cavalry, the queen, the open file. It spells doom and gloom for black at this part. I'd probably be perspiring, right, at this point.
If you have black.
Knight E4, F4. Now he has to bring back his Bishop C8 played by Artemiev, probably the only move
That doesn't lose immediately.
but all moves leads to Rome. So, so after Bishop C8, Knight F6 check, King D8. Next move, please.
Queen d5 check.
Queen D5 check. What about Knight B6? If Bishop D7,
Then knight e6.
Knight E6 check, forking the queen. Okay.
Ouch.
So we have, what's the only move?
Queen d6.
If Bishop D6, you have Bishop takes C5, right? And all kinds of problem.
What about queen d6?
Queen D6 was the move played in the game. And here we will close today's class with white to play and win, forcing your opponent to resign. It's not mate, but white to play and win.
So let me guess, who wins major material?
White to play and win. 1,
Takes d6.
2, 3,
Takes c5.
4.
Bishop takes.
Who said that? Bishop takes
Bishop
C5.
takes c5.
With the idea of if queen takes queen,
If queen takes queen, then bishop takes c7.
no.
Bishop B6.
Bishop B6.
Mate.
Oh.
I hope you guys enjoyed the class this morning. Okay. Very good.